right, the next step is in this detail process. I'm going to start adding some of the nitty-gritty details to their faces. Mostly this step will be faces, so I'm going to pull their faces away from their limbs and focus on them a little bit. So I'm going to start with these three colors and do a little bit with each of them. I think I'm going to start with a little bit of the purple. Alright, so I'm going to enhance some of the purple that is supposed to be in their eyelids and around their mouth. This is the same color purple and the same texture and everything that I used to do the modeling at the very, very beginning. So I'm going to pull some of this out and pull it onto my lid just so it's a little bit less watery. Alright, I'm going to put a little dollop on her eyelids. And blend those in nicely. And then I'm going to put a little bit of a kind of a layer or a streak right over the top of her lip. And I'm going to blend it down just so it touches the top of the lip, but not into the lips itself. And I don't want it to be just like a line, like a mustache. I want it to kind of fade into oblivion. So I'm going to work at the edges a little bit and kind of smooth it out so it disappears into the abyss of her little cheekies. And lastly, on the bottoms of her mouth, I'm going to put a little bit of this purple underneath. And I think I'm going to put a little dollop right here beside each of her nostrils. I kind of want to use a less big brush for the ones around her nose because I don't want it to spread out onto her cheeks. I want it to kind of go into her nasal crease right there. Alright. That's it for this section on her face. I'm going to do some in her ears in a little bit, but I'll come back to that when I'm done with this area. Pull these purples out of here. Next I'm going to pull in some yellow. This is the same yellow that I used for the yellow wash earlier, the yellowy ochre color. This does not take much, so try not to overdo it. You're just going to touch right at the top of her nose. And then I'm going to use my model or my blending sponge or my blending brush just for my yellow to blend this out onto the tops of her cheeks. Okay, so you see that how pretty that looks. Now we're going to add a little bit of that up here, but I don't want it so concentrated. So I'm going to pull out my yellow modeling sponge, assuming I can find it without taking 10 years. I'm going to add yellow, but I don't want it to be so thick, so I'm going to dip this just like I would if I was doing a whole model and do a concentrated area where it's just across the top of her forehead. And with my blending brush, I'm going to come in at the edges and smooth it into the top and into the bottom so that it adds to it, but it doesn't add to everything. I only want that area affected. And again, we're going to come down here on the lower neck area, on her cheeks. Right, so for this particular, oh, I'm going to do a little bit right on her little Cupid's bow thing. It's raised up enough, I think it would look cute there. Okay, so that's really starting to look beautiful. So I'm going to put the yellow away for this particular one and pull out some blue. This is the baby blue that I use for modeling only. I don't use it for veins. It's a mixture of the eyelid blue and kind of a creamy white skin tone color. Now my blue sponge. And I'm going to come over here to the temples. And blend in the edges so that it is there, but it semi-disappears. It's only going to enhance the colors below. You're not going to see a lot of blue, and if you do see a lot of blue, then it's way too thick. It's only there to give it a little more, like, you know, pink, red, and blue make purple. So it's going to kind of do that effect for us, not make it look super blue. Right in her forehead area, I'm going to put a little bit. And then I'm going to come in and do a little bit right across the bridge of her nose. I want this to be a little bit thicker than just the watery stuff in the jar because I want it to actually be a visible, not like crazy visible, but we're going to blend this down a little bit. And you can see I just added, I made it look like a translucent layer of blue. Just a little bit of splotches here and there. Adds a great deal of depth to this little cute face. Alright, so this is enough for some of these rainbowy colors. The next step for this little face is I'm going to add more to her lips, and then I'm going to come in and do the last layer of creases and her pink blushing on her cheeks. But I want to cook what's here first so that I don't wipe it off as I go. So I'm going to swap over to Little Promise here and do the same steps. So we're going to start with a purple again. We're going to do some on her eyelids. And I'm going to put some around the nose. This one's tiny, so I don't want to put too much or it's going to turn it into kind of a mask type of a feature and kind of detract or make it look like it needs oxygen, which we don't need. Put a little bit under the mouth. These lips are really light, so the next layer is going to be some more lips, so these guys' lips fill out a little bit. Alright, so that's enough of the purple. I'm going to come back to the yellow. For some reason in preemies, this area is way more yellow. In jaundice babies, it's actually a lot yellow right through this area too. And I'm not 100% sure why. I guess maybe the skin is very thin here. It just shows up as paler and the yellow is more visible. And across the forehead for her modeling and around her facial cheekies. A little bit on her chin. I'll give her some more warmth and make her look more alive. And I mean her, I mean him. This is going to be a little boy baby. Alright, so that's enough of the yellow. Except I think I'm going to do a little bit on the lips again. And then lastly, I'm going to pull out the blue and do a little blue on this one as well. And then across the bridge of the nose. Okay. Alright, so this little face is done with this colorful stuff too. We're going to come back in after we cook the little face and we'll start on some of the blushing and the creases to get these guys finished up.